I view private equity in the following way. We're a huge flashlight. You walk into a room that may be dark, I'm shining the light everywhere. In the corners, in the crevices. What I found is those who are really good at their job, well, they're super excited. And those who are maybe less than good at their job curl up and kind of hide from that light. And so when we eventually exit our investment, the light's on the room. Everyone can see everything. Transparency and data.
What's the most common piece of investment advice you hear that you think's BS?
I can't tell you how often I hear.
Justin, I am so excited for this. I heard so many great things from Peter at SCS, had a great chat to Neil Mater about you the other day, so thank you so much for joining me today.
I could not be more excited to be here. Thanks for the opportunity to show more about Shore Capital and those are my favorite people out there and some of the most successful investors. And so have the opportunity to share the Shore Capital story and what we're building in the future. I'm always love talking about it.
They are great people. I have to agree with you there. Listen, I stalked the shit out of you for the last few days. I listened to everything that you've done, and I believe that we're all shaped by our childhoods. And I want to start there. I saw that your father found UWM when you were 8. You saw him grow the business through your teenage years, and I just thought that must have been quite transformational to your early mindset. What are one or two of the biggest... Oh, that's interesting.
Yes and no. So I'm going to leave with my father a little bit because it plays into, I think, how I was brought up and I think how I think about investing and think kind of the big picture. So my grandfather came over on the boat from Turkey, and when he was 8, and my grandfather settled in New York, and then when he was in his early 20s, moved to Detroit. And so I'm born and raised in Detroit. My parents are from Detroit. My dad, father, owned 2 small diners on the edge of Wayne State University's campus, like literally like a diner for college kids at burgers for lunch or maybe. Unfortunately, my father's father, my grandfather I never met, passed away when I was 16 years old. I think my dad's framework of business and mindset was really framed by watching his dad work his tail off, but also pass away too young. And I think it's something that drove him and also I think framed how he wanted to be a father, also on the business side of it. And so my dad, if you asked me when I was 18 years old, tell me what your dad does, the mortgage industry would be the last thing I say. As a lawyer, first and foremost, he's an entrepreneur. He started a restaurant chain. He started a potato chip company. He started an alarm company and a mortgage company, which ended up being obviously a meaningfully sized business. But when I was in high school, there was probably 30 employees in that mortgage company. And so I was 8 years old when he founded the mortgage company. He founded it because one of his best friends was a mortgage broker and needed a partner, and there are 50 partners, and his best friend ended up having a family issue and moved away, and he was left with the business. It was relatively small. And so, but my dad's framework for that business was, I think it was very simple. Like he never had an office in that building. He's always worked at his law firm. He fancies himself as a lawyer. He never spent a lot of time in that business. It was more about, I think, hiring the right people and treating them right. And it was also, I think, it wasn't like never took venture capital money. It was just his own money. It was built brick by brick. And I think he really thought about in a way of, I'm going to do something for the long term. But he was not trying to build a huge company. He was trying to basically service some customers and make a little money. And I think if you talk to him till this day, the first 20 years of that business, he would call his side hustle. Like he's a lawyer. And it was a way to feed business to his law firm. I think is how I really think about it. But, I've learned a ton from him. But those early days of that mortgage company, it was more of I would say, ancillary part of his work life than it was, I would say, his main business. And then in 2009, that changed a whole bunch. And I can happy to dive into that part of it. But I was already 32 at that point in time. When it changed in a material way. But it was a relatively small business that, in 2009, I use the analogy. Have you seen the movie Forrest Gump? And part of the movie where, I forgot the guy's name, the captain, they go out into the ocean during the hurricane and they come back and all the ships are destroyed and they're the one ship that's still available. And that was my dad in the subprime market. And if you asked him why in 2005, 2010, they never did a subprime loan, he said, I didn't understand it. And I would say, I don't understand why we're loaning somebody X dollars with no income statements, no information on them. He goes, I don't understand it. So his business was relatively small in that moment in time. But when the whole world crashed, because every subprime loan got destroyed, he was the last one left. He had no buybacks. And so in 2009, the business kind of blew up. Before that, though, it was 30, 40 employees. I think before 2009, it was maybe the 10th or 20th largest mortgage player in the state of Michigan. And after 2009, it went to a national player because so many players dropped out. I think that was foresight and judgment. And also I think it's a lesson in business. Don't do things you understand if everyone's doing it. It doesn't make a difference. You do what you understand. If you understand it well, I think you can execute on it. And so my dad never understood subprime mortgages, never did it. He only did FHA, government-backed loans. And when the world turned, he was kind of the last one standing. So the business kind of took off then. My brother was running it. And so, but watching my dad be an entrepreneur, I would say between a restaurant, I remember being 12 years old, Saturday night entertainment, my dad would take us to his little restaurant. And before we would go in for like, a Saturday night, 9:30, like chocolate Sunday or something, we would sit in the parking lot and watch the window, see if the front desk person was stealing cash. It's a cash business back then. And so he's taught me, like, you own a business, you trust but verify. And he was watching people through the window from about, 40 yards away and saying, are we doing what they're saying we're going to do? Are they pocketing cash? So someone paid for their coffee for $2. They put one in their pocket and one in the register. And so I was watching that at age 12 going, oh, okay, that's how you think about managing a business. You trust, but you verify. And the verify stuff is a really important part of it.
So I write notes on my hand. It helps me remember when you get to my age, Justin, my memory is not what it used to be. And the reason this show is successful is because you just totally go off schedule. You said about, grandfather dying maybe too early. Ironically, given my youth, I think about this a lot. And I respectfully look at you, someone who's achieved immense success, respectfully has all the money that one needs. How do you think about that? And bluntly, the concept of dying too early and missing what could be time with family, what could be time with your wife. How do you reflect on that?
I think it's everything less a balance. Like the last thing I want to do is die too early. That's for the first thing. And so, like, to me, you have to invest in your health and you have to invest in like a balance, which is kind of incongruous what people tell you in like the world of what we do. Like work, all hours of the day, like hustle through everything. I think out your health, you have nothing. And like you have to balance. So like to me, it's like I have a primary care doctor. I do my regular physicals twice a year, trying to do proactive steps on testing. You try and you do all the right things, but there's luck and there's genetics, right? And there's some things you can do. Like I can't tell you if I go on the street trying to hit by bus. So you have to live your life to the fullest. But to me, my grandfather died of a heart attack at 56. So I'm very aware of heart issues. And so like I'm proactive on heart stuff. My dad is as well. And my brother is as well. And so, you have that lineage, you try and be mindful of it. But the way I think about it is my job is to be here for my kids until they're, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old and beyond. And so how do you balance that with building an organization? That's what I think you have to do. I can't be, and by the way, there's time for everything. I didn't get married till I was 40, largely because it took a long time for a girl to like me. But, but those first 25 years or so of my life, I was heads down. I was working my tail off, and then the time for balance, the time for hustle. But I think that the mindset of you only work isn't right. I think the mindset you only play isn't right either. I think you have to know when to turn on and off, and it ebbs and flows. And I personally like to mix a little bit of both. I fortunately have a lot of people I work with who are long-term friends, people I trust, who work in organizations, who are able to mix business and pleasure, which I think is an important part of, at least for our firm's success.
How old were you when you had your first child, Justin?
41. So I got married when I was just turned 40. My wife's 8 years younger than me. So I had a chance to I started Shore Capital when I was 31. And I do believe one of our competitive advantages was, early on, my partners were then 28, 27, and 29. And one of them was married and other three of us were not married. And we were routinely in the office till 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. It was normal course. It was the behavior of the organization. And I think as the organization matures, you have 150 people, and I think things change. But I think, look, it's important for me to be there for my kids, coaching their games, going to school, street conferences. At 34, I wasn't doing that because I didn't have kids. So there is an advantage of, I'm sure there's probably disadvantage as well. When I'm coaching their 4-year-old baseball league, I'm the older dad. Most of their dads are 35 and I'm 45, right? So there's a trade-offs, of course. But I view that everything in life is a balance and trade-off. And if there was a right way to do it, someone would write a book and everyone would follow it. There's no right way. You got to figure out what's right for you and for your family.
And you did buy the baseball league that they play in, so at least that helps.
That does help.
We're going to get to parenting later because I do want to discuss it. But you also mentioned, your father in the mortgage business really being like Forrest Gump and Captain. I can't remember his sodding name, but being the one left behind. And there's a little bit there that's persistence and just being the one that's bluntly persistent.
Yep.
But a little bit of luck there too. You said before PE is a hustle game. How do you think about the balance between skill and hard work and luck in your journey and success?
So I call my dad a lot. My dad used to tell me, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And so like, how do you parse out hard work and luck? And so in a vacuum, any moment may appear lucky, but I would argue it may be the product of hard work or vice versa. Let me give you an example. The very first platform we did in 2009, my partner, Mike Cooper, sourced our CEO. His name was Chris York. Chris York is I would say, a luminary in the home infusion industry, a very small niche of the world, but he made a phone call to Chris York, answered the phone call, and somebody said that was lucky. You got a hold of Chris York, who was an industry luminary, who was leaving his job, and that happened to be that week. He called at the right moment. Yeah, maybe that phone call was lucky. However, Mike, I know, made hundreds of phone calls in that industry to learn who that person was, but to meet other people, and did 10,000 steps before then. And so when that moment came in time, he's prepared. He knew the industry. That guy was interested. And that phone call was lucky, but I would say that was a byproduct of hard work, many, many steps. And the outcome of one moment was lucky, but the whole entire process was hard work. And so I really believe that more often than not, you do the process right, you follow it all the way. You won't always end up with the luck or the opportunity at the end, but I'm confident of this. If you don't do it right, the odds of that success are dramatically lower. I'm a big person on playing the odds. How do I increase the odds of success? And you think about process and following through. The process is the hard work. And then that's how I usually think about it. So Mike did an amazing job sourcing Chris. Chris became our first CEO. Our first deal went from, it was a $6 million deal, sold for $50 million plus. 3 years later, allows you to raise your first fund. That sort of stuff is luck and hard work. And it's hard to separate in certain moments. But I think that the best investors have a little of both.
I totally agree with you that the best investors have both. You mentioned that being the first deal there, and it being a very successful first deal. And bluntly, you had a blistering start of success. My question to you, and it's really continued, to be honest, but it often doesn't. My question to you is, and you're thinking, why on earth are we going so off schedule? But I'm too interested. How do you think about managing investor psychology? If it's amazingly successful, it can be dangerous. And if it's in the dumps, it can be dangerous. What have been your biggest lessons on how to manage investor psychology through the ups and downs?
Yeah. So first of all, I view our role as short capital. We're investors, but I think we're also kind of company builders. We are operators. And so I like to think we kind of help make some of our own success. Look, there's going to be good and bad luck, but I think you try and stack the deck in your favor and have many things that can go right. That, if all of them go right, you hit a home run. If a few of them go right, you do pretty well. And if they all go wrong, you miss out. And that, to me, starts with the industry. I think a lot of people think about investing. I think Warren Buffett is one of my favorite investors, and I trust a lot of things he says. And the quote he always says, this always rings to my mind. The quote goes something like this, It says, when a great management team meets a bad industry, the industry maintains reputation. That always sticks with me. You have to understand the industry. If you go into the publishing business right now, I don't care if you're Jack Welch in his prime, you're probably not going to end up having a bunch of success. So you have to pick out the right to pick your spot. I think that is less luck, and that is industry expertise, focus, discipline, and process. From there, a lot of things follow. But I think you're only as good as your last investment, and you're only as good as what you did yesterday. And so to me, it's all about process. And, investor psychology, there's going to be good days and bad days. Literally, if you come home from work and everything went well, you aren't trying hard enough. We're very much a goals-oriented firm. And I tell our guys, if all the things you have to do, we were a green, yellow, red firm. Green, you got it, yellow part of the way, red, the dent. And if all your goals are green, you didn't try hard enough. You didn't stretch yourself far enough. And so in my view, I want my investors, my partners, executives to make mistakes, but no mistakes that kill you. And so you have to have a balance. And so the things that haven't gone as well, we always write an investor committee memo, and we have a whole process around it. Tell our guys, we've yet to have an outcome below 3 times our money. So that's not occurred yet, but that day's going to come. And that day comes, I told my guys, I'm judging that team that put together on one fact in that moment. Did we identify the risk before we started? And we may have thought it was only a small risk, but I'm be really bummed if we made an investment and it didn't go well and we didn't see the risk even coming. If we saw the risk, we thought the reward was better, and we misjudged the percentage in the weighting, okay, that's a misjudgment by our team, and we missed that. But I'll be pretty upset with myself and the team if we were blindsided by a risk that we could never have saw. And so to me, that's a lot about, so how do you manage the psychology of that? Hey, you know what? We made a mistake. We saw the risk. We missed it. We didn't get it all the way right, but we didn't die from it. I think that's where we've been so far as an organization, but a day will come. And there's some little lessons in there on I think things we won't do anymore, on the not so good investing. I'd say our worst deal in firm's history. looking back on it, I was seduced by price. If I would ever do a deal again, I will never do it just because of price. I knew we were getting a sweetheart deal and an opportunity and a deal paying probably, I don't know, half to 2/3 of the market would yield. You know what? There's a reason why. And I thought that we were smarter than the next guy. We got a deal for a really good price. But I think people all the time, sometimes, look, I want to pay. One thing you can never change about a deal is the price you pay for it. But sometimes just the price in itself, the other factors aren't there. I'm very, very resident to invest in that dynamic.
My hand is going to look ridiculous by the end of this interview. I have so many things to ask. You said that, like, hey, we've never had a deal that's less than 3x. What an amazing track. In venture, one would say, are we taking enough risk? We should have more losses, bluntly, or we should have that as part of the portfolio. Is that mindset the same for you and in your business?
We're buyouts, right? So we're microcap. But just for those who don't know our firm very well, we focus on investing with businesses 1 million to 10 million of EBITDA at investment. We make somewhere between 6 and 10 platform investments in a fund. If one goes bad, that's not good at all. And so to me, we can't have zeros. Unlike venture, where you could end up being fortunate and invest in a Facebook, and that can be 1,000 to 1, whatever it be. In the private equity industry, in the microcap sector, a really, really good outcome is 4 or 5 times your money. You can't afford a zero. That makes your average comes 2.5 or so, or whatever it may be. So to me, it's not acceptable to have a zero. And we try and mitigate all those things. And unlike in venture, where you're not in control, in our industry, only do control investing, right? And so, my buyouts, if it isn't going well, it's on us to make changes. And that is whether it's management, whether it's doing another acquisition. One of the things that's been a little bit of not a secret to our success, but I think it's increased our margin for error, is that like many private equity firms, we allocate a certain amount to a thesis. Let's just say we're going to allocate $40 million thesis to invest in the urgent care industry. More often than not, before we make the investment, we have a board in place. So I'll have my board in place before I even buy the company. And so they're helping me think through the challenges of buying a business before you invest. That part isn't that unique, I don't believe. The next step, I think, is unique, is that most other private equity firms, in my experience, is they commit $40 million to a thesis. They'll deploy $25 to $30 million or $35 million for the platform and reserve $5 to $10 million for the add-on. We're the inverse. Our platforms are really more, we'll put 10 to 40, 50% of our capital in for the platform and reserve the rest for add-ons. And why that's so important to reduce your loss ratio is I can get the first investment wrong. If I put 20, it can't be so wrong that it kills you. But if I try and back Harry, and Harry's the wrong urgent care operator, and we've deployed 22% of our capital for that thesis with Harry, as long as Harry isn't fraudulent and isn't horrible, I can do a second investment in that exact same sector in another town, and I can go partner with Peter. And I can say, Peter, now you're the platform. Peter, Harry, you're the add-on, and my margin fares. I have 2 or 3 shots on goal. If I miss all 3 of them, I'm going to have a bad outcome. But we've yet to have that occur. And so the opportunity to almost reset by having dollars go in later that is equal to the first investment, I think has created a really competitive advantage. That's a function of the size of the market we play in.
How efficient is the allocation of add-ons? So like in venture, we obviously have reserves. I don't believe in reserves at an early stage because I feel like your early winners are not often sustainable value generators and they're just traction winners. How efficiently can you allocate those add-ons? And is it really telling who the winners are early?
So it's not super efficient at the investment. It gets super efficient at month 24. At month 24, I know if I'm so let's say we have a $500 million fund. I'm putting 12 portfolio companies in there, roughly $40 million each. I can get to, when I make 3 investments all at the same time in the same quarter, whatever it may be, allocate 40 to each of them. I can get probably 18 months in and go, this is a thesis we need to double down on. I'm going to change my allocation from 40 to 80. And the one that we thought was pretty good, that'll be 42 or just to 25. And so we can readjust our allocation while we have some more knowledge of the industry. I've never bought a business where I knew everything on the way up. It's just, you make mistakes. And so once you get in the game with the people, the industry is the most important part for me always. When we get the right people with the right industry, with a system and a process we believe that we've executed on as a firm for a long time, usually it goes pretty well.
It's funny, you spoke about your kind of centrality around industry there. I can't remember if it's Buffett or Charlie Munger, but one of them said the secret to success in business is weak competition. And it's something that I think too often. You might be able to tell me who it is, but alas, my memory is not as good as
I don't know which one it was for you.
But I think of that often. How do you think about competition when analyzing industries?
Yeah, I mean, so we like to think about where can the small player win? And that's how we think about it. And we like to invest in industries where being inherently local is a true competitive advantage. And so people want to feel like you're a cottage or a boutique or a small field where you have a relationship with the customer. We usually like to invest in those sectors. Where short capital is not really good is if you have to be multi-continental. We're not good at that. So there's some like drug pharma companies that require testing to be done in India and in Western Europe and the US and South America. Not for us. That's not something that we think we have expertise in, nor should we with our capital size and allocation. But where we have some kind of advantages is where something is on the smaller side, where the local player wins. And we also like when we can get to places before larger funds can get there. So an example, probably a decade ago, I heard over and over again from a lot of larger funds, they love the veterinary industry. But every time a platform that was of scale came to market, back then, it was 12 times EBITDA. It was so expensive. That to me was like music to my ears. Okay, let's go one step back in the food chain. Our competitive advantage is we can go to a niche where very few are playing, buy it with 3 of EBITDA, and grow the business. And so the thing about competitors, you look at the local competition, the regional and national. And there are some industries that are really valuable, and especially in healthcare, where I'd say about 3/4 of where our investing has been, it's a state-by-state game. Medicaid in Texas may be very different than Medicaid in Utah. You have to know the nuances. And so what may be a really good physical therapy company opportunity in Utah is not so good in Texas and vice versa. So there's like state nuances. And there's also even local overlay with like local credits and sort of incentives. So I think you have to really get in the weeds and know your local competition. But in healthcare, I always say it's inherently a local business. And we want to become the dominant player locally. And we'll get in multiple markets and we'll land and expand. But when we get into certain markets, it's about who's in town. And we're not the smartest guys in the world, but like you ask about competition. So like this is my homework and others, and this is like a secret sauce, but copy it. I think I wish others would do it. I think it's the right way to invest in. So if we're going to invest in an ophthalmology platform, when we bought our first ophthalmology business, which is Atlanta, we bought it when it was roughly 10 of revenue, roughly, $1.5 million, $2 million in EBITDA. The homework on that was as follows: calling between 5 and 10 other ophthalmologists in Atlanta and asking the following question. If your mother was going to have a cataract surgery and she could not come to you, who in town would she go to? Who would you send her to? And we ask that question all the time in almost every business we acquire. And you have to recognize there's sometimes people in town that don't like each other. So there's a balance of recognizing the Yankees and the Red Sox hate each other. So you'll never say the other guy's good. But you want to hear that the group you're buying and partnering with is on the list from a majority of the group. And if everyone's saying, Dr. Harry is really good, you should go there, you ask who the 4 or 5 girls you refer your mom to. That to me is about competition and the industry respect. And if you're going to invest behind a business, especially in a roll-up, you want the industry's respect. And there's no higher form of respect than allowing your mother or your child to go to that person for the services that are being offered. And so you talk about industry expertise and competition. To me, it's all about local reputation and be able to identify a low winner in that town. Every industry, every town has the good guys and bad guys. I can't tell you I know them from afar, but I think over a period of time with process, we can zero in on a town of knowing who is the kind of Coke and Pepsi and partner with the right ones.
Over the last few years, it seems that and healthcare practices, but whether it's laser eye surgery, which we were chatting about earlier, but have been like the darling of a lot of PE specialists. How do you think about when something becomes obvious, the price increases and the capital supply increases, and when's the time to depart a previously attractive space because of an increase in capital supply?
So I think 2 things occur. In an industry, things go from, in my opinion, novos, which means you open or greenfield new location, to acquisition. And there's opportunity for both. And so industry may start out at like the urgent care industry. We started in that sector 12 years ago. All we would do de novos because there's only 8,000 in the US. Today there's like 12,000. It was about green space. It was going to locations where no one's been. And then after the industry matured a little bit, a lot of relatively smaller ones out there, you want to acquire. And so I think there's like a path that industry goes through, and it goes from de novo to acquisition and to industry optimization. And for us, we love investing in spaces where scale creates value by synergies, lowering of cost, and increased price. And so 3 areas we love a lot, we call healthcare light, which is veterinary, med spa, and orthodontics, because there's no third-party reimbursement. There's no Medicare, there's no Medicaid, there's no Blue Cross Blue Shield. You can raise price there if you're the best person in town. Because this isn't like rocket science, but if you have a wait list to get in to see the provider and you have a high NPS score, you probably can raise the price. You don't want to price gouge, you want to be obnoxious, but with data of having hundreds of locations, you can say, a spade in Knoxville, Tennessee costs $400, and in Nashville it costs $500. You go line out the door in Knoxville, Tennessee, you go to $440. It's not going to change the behavior if your NPS score is high, you have a high wait list. So for me, yes, when you get out, it's when you feel like that the acquisition prices are unreasonable. You do not believe raising prices in a outside the normal course makes sense, and you no longer can increase the margin of the business through scale of reducing the cost of your vendors. The most valuable businesses where you can consistently increase your pre-corporate margins by lowering the cost. And so like in orthodontics, the bigger you get, the lower you can buy Invisalign from, lower the cost. And so the bigger you get, the more valuable asset. So Harry wants to sell his practice to us. If you call it paying $1 a unit for the hardware, we're paying 80 cents. Day one, you're a more valuable part of our family. And if we're also buying from McKesson or Shine, your gloves and your all sorts of other utensils, whatever may be your tools, that cost $1, cost 70 cents with us. I love investing in sectors where we can make acquisitions where day one, what we acquire is more valuable. We call that at Shore Capital, we call it light switch EBITDA. It means by contract, I have something that when you become part of our family, you make more money just because you're worth us, period. Not because we operationally changed it, which we'll try and do, not because we made something better, but just by the very fact you're part of our family, the cost from the vendor goes down, which increases your margin. And that's something to spend a lot of time thinking about. And industry, there's more opportunity there. There's more of that. And the last part of that is also ancillaries. So you can be investing in a sector where a TPA sector, where you're holding millions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars as a custodian. When you're a relatively small player, you get almost no fees from a Wells Fargo or a large bank. The bigger you get, you can start having some fees and credits and things become more valuable, develop an ancillary revenue stream. You can develop ancillary revenue streams that the small guy doesn't have that you have because of scale. I'm not a seller in those industries. I'm a buyer. And so I'm always thinking of ways where scale can give you an opportunity to be successful. And when you acquire, we are a buy and build firm, gives you an opportunity to, by adding more to the team, it increases the value of the whole entire platform. Just what they say in venture community is network effect. I think it's a different way of saying it, but there is, by being part of a platform, become more valuable. And I think that's where I focus on. And then when we sell, I don't think that makes sense any longer. Or sometimes your management team has kind of run its course. And that's one of the things I think is hardest to part and sell, but it's the right call. And so let's say, Harry, we partner together and we're going to do a veterinary roll-up, and you take a chance on us and you're a first-time CEO. About 75 or 80% of our CEOs are first-time CEOs. And I say, Harry, I'm going to back you, and we're going to start over 2 of EBITDA. And if we get to 15 or 20 of EBITDA in 4 or 5 years, it's a home run, then we've succeeded. Let's say we're at 19 of EBITDA, and I still see runway ahead of us. But I see, Harry, you kind of tapped out. I think it's the wrong call for an organization and for a firm and for investors to say, Harry, I'm letting you go and bringing in Peter tomorrow to be the new CEO. In that fact pattern, we're a seller because we've accomplished our goals. We said what we were going to do. Even though I think there's runway ahead of the opportunity, it's the wrong thing to do to the person and the organization to let Harry go if we've accomplished our goals. And there's just a natural J curve. It's time for a new round of investment. It's time for a top grading of the team. But I'm not going to let go of the guys who got me there if they've done the job they're supposed to do. If you're supposed to go to 20 and we're at 7 and you're at your limits, then it's different. Then I would say it's time to change. But if we've accomplished our goals, we set at the very beginning, I'm not going to kind of take your knees off from you.
You said when you were analyzing, you say it a lot, and then I'm like, keep on trying to remember the different segments so that I can ask about them. No, it's fantastic. But I just want to go back. You said there about and you gave the Invisalign buying solution where, you buy at scale and then it obviously cost of units comes down and then you have increased better pricing because of that. Can you talk to me about a time when you made an investment or an acquisition and you had a belief that turned out to be wrong on scale in some way? What was that belief and why was it not what you thought it was?
We've made investment in another sector where we believe that scale mattered. it's another part of the dental industry, actually. We believe scale mattered, but the state by state regulation was so overbearing that the complexity of the new state was so challenging that it outweighed the value of scale. It was almost like you're running two separate businesses across state lines. And so the cost of goods sold and the vendor costs, that part was right, but the payment structure and the rules in that state were so different. So this is the wrong example, but a nurse practitioner works in Illinois, but does not work in Indiana. But in Wisconsin, the nurse practitioner works, but it is only able to do A, B, and C. So these are three states with the exact same industry. You get paid different. You have different rules, different training requirements. It's like you're running three businesses. So the efficiencies are sucked up with administrative burden to run three businesses the right way. And so I think that's where I would say made a mistake. So now we're so much more focused now in the early days on making sure that if scale and efficiencies is a big part of it, it's ensuring that as you grow to multiple geographies and states, that the rules don't change in a meaningful way.
To attain scale and the economies of scale, the benefits of scale, do you have to be high volume?
I mean, you can buy a bigger business. And so when we're selling, I think less so. I think, though, the multiple arbitrage, and the arbitrage for us is that you're oftentimes partnering. Remember, we're 3/4 each on healthcare. The bigger value is partnering with amazing people who are really good at one thing, fixing your eye from a cataract or whatever it may be. But they focus less on the business side of the house, and they let a lot of the low-hanging fruit go because they're doing quite well as it is. And so we focus on this concept of light switch EBITDA, where contractually we're better, and where there's relatively low-hanging fruit, but we know we have executed before, and we can bring new things to the table. So, for example, if an ophthalmologist has a line out the door, what are things we can do to help the ophthalmologist? Well, we can hopefully bring nurse practitioners or PAs in to hopefully do the things that are more administrative or not what a doctor should be doing. So we use the terminology of short capital all the time, top of your license. We believe people love working at the top of their license, doing things only they can do. Cataract surgeon is the only one who can cut your eye. But the follow-up visit for a standard procedure, the nurse practitioner, trained the right way with the appropriate process, can ask all the right questions and flag if there's a problem. But no, 80% of the people that come back, there's no problem. So now I've taken away the follow-up visits from the doctor, unless the nurse practitioner says there's a problem, and he can go do more of the things that he or she loves to do. People love doing things that are the most complex of their ability. And so we want to put people in those positions. We believe people excel at things they love to do, and they love doing things that are complex that only they can do. And so that's what we think about a whole bunch. How do I put you in that position? And so then I want that nurse to do things only that she or he can do. I want that medical assistant to do things only that they can do. The front desk person to do things that only they can do. So everyone is pushing up, doing things at the top of their license. I think that's where a company thrives, where people are doing things that are always unique to them and always professionally challenging and rewarding.
How welcoming do you find these operators of your advice, wisdom, imparting? Often people are quite ingrained in the way that they do something. Are they that welcoming always of, hey, we're going to improve how you run your business. We're going to increase productivity with X, Y, and Z. How do they respond?
So we won't partner with them if they are open to the things we want to do. We try to be one of the benefits of us starting with a board of industry experts. We're able to start in the front end of us knowing what good looks like in that industry. We're able to say, this is what the industry metrics are. It's in the urgent care industry, it's 3 visits per hour. In the orthodontics sector, it's X visits per day. So you're able to know what industry norms are, and if the person we're partnering with is not as industry norms, we share that before we start. And the answer isn't work harder. It's why is your outcomes different than industry norms? And maybe something structural we don't understand, maybe a regulation we don't understand, but we want those who want to do things in a certain way. I always tell people how we think of short capital is if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And people say private equity can be, tough and fire people or that sort of stuff. No, that's not how we think about it. I view private equity in the following way. We're a huge flashlight. You walk into a room that may be dark. I'm shining the light everywhere, in the corners, in the crevices. And what I found is those who are really good at their job are like, shine it here. Like, look at me. No one's recognized me, what I've been doing for the last year. I'm performing at a really high level, and they're super excited. And those who are maybe less than good at their job curl up and kind of hide from that light. And we try and shine a light everywhere. And so when we eventually exit our investment, the light's out in the room and everyone can see everything. Transparency in data, comparing to your peers and having industry norms. I never want anyone to do anything that is not safe. We always say good medicine is good business, but to us, we want to have people work with the potential, and that can be top of your license. It can be having the right tools, having the right metrics. Sometimes people just don't know. You just know if you got trained 19 years ago and all you've done was a certain way, you may even know there's a new procedure that's available that, with investment of a new tool in your office can create a differentiated value. And so I'm a big believer of shine the light. You can't measure, you can't manage. And a lot of time the measuring part of it is, it's not at first you get to a change. It's more of just tracking it. Just by the very tracking of number of something per week or per month or per whatever it may be, people start comparing themselves to their peers. And my experience is the best ones are competitive. They go, oh, I don't want, wait, Harry, manufactured, 8 widgets last week or yesterday, and our line manufactured 6. Why did one faster than us? And competitive people usually want to, beat the guy next to them. And those are the people that usually thrive in our system, who are excited about growth and want to learn. And by the way, we learn a ton from them too. There's things we've learned in X industry and we go, wow, they're doing something pretty amazing. We should port that over here. We call that lift and shift, where something is done really successfully somewhere and we think it can apply somewhere else. And that's one of the most valuable parts of our platform, is recognizing analogs in other industries and porting it somewhere else that can help a other industry or business get there faster. That's part of the platform value creation.
You mentioned that you like first-time CEOs. We differ in this respect. My thinking is, bluntly, there are so many mistakes that you make the first time that with the benefit of hindsight, you would never make again. It could be hiring, it could be pricing, it could be new market entry, whatever that is. So I always favor second-time founders. Why do you like first-time CEOs? Are you not concerned that they make many mistakes that can be avoided? Why do you think like this?
So a couple of things. So when I started Shore Capital, I was in your camp. So our first 3 or 4 platforms, I went out and found CEOs that were more experienced. This guy, Chris Shore, before, was a very established CEO. I felt like we had to get the experienced, established person. My biggest, I'd say, paradigm shift in investing is, give me that young, hungry energy that wants to run through walls, has yet to make it yet. They're going to make mistakes. But remember, if in a construct, in a system, they're not alone. Now, the one thing, sometimes the venture community, you're more a minority investor, you touch base with them 4 times a year, it's a little more hands-off. I try to build a system where we have a board, 7 individuals around the table who are helping that CEO, bringing a CFO. We have a lead director on the platform, bringing in a whole team around them. And that young and hungry first-time CEO, to them, they have to make it work. It is their professional career on the line. And they also know if they succeed in our system, they become incredibly valuable round 2. And so if you went from a 4 EBITDA with us to 28 and exited and made 8 times your money, now you have the big boys calling. Blackstone wants to back you to go do something all over again. So we're hopefully helping mint future really valuable CEOs for other ecosystems. Some people want to come to us for that part of it. But also our first-time CEOs, they aren't 28-year-old individuals very first time sometimes. A lot of times they are running a large division of a large company that's doing $400 million of revenue, but they've never had the CEO role. They've been president of Division A, and now they're going to come down market to a $75 million or $50 million revenue business and be CEO, which now you have to change. I mean, my view, a CEO has 3 jobs: set the strategy and vision for the firm, recruit and retain the best talent, and hold the talent accountable. So bucket 2 and bucket 3, the division president is doing. If Harry's the division president of a $1 billion company, he's running a $200 million P&L, you were probably recruiting and retaining the right way. You were probably holding your talent accountable in your division if you're successful in that division. What you probably had to do is set the vision. And by the way, I have a board who will help you set that vision, and we will align out the vision is going to look like and what success looks like. And we're buying relatively smaller businesses. And so when it's 4 of EBITDA or 9 of EBITDA, at that stage, me going to get that multi-billion-dollar company CEO first time, 3 or 4 times back, to come back to a $4 million EBITDA business, I probably don't want him. I go, well, what's wrong? Why is he used to running a business doing 100 EBITDA? I want to come back to 4, with one caveat. done, I think, 11 or 12 times where we've had people on our board who's run that large multi-billion-dollar business, who's a board member at company A, gets to know us pretty well for a year, 2 years, 3 years. The company grows and scales, and that person then has resigned, retired, or changed where they are professionally in their other job. And we start doing a CEO search, and that person goes, I'm interested. I'd like to step on this board. Just happened with us probably 2 months ago, individual who was number 3 guy at a business that's probably 300 or 400 EBITDA. He's becoming a first-time CEO for us, a business doing 4 million EBITDA. And so he would never have done that. But for him knowing the management team and the board and the structure, he goes, I'm stepping in for the last 3 years. I know what I got, kind of, as opposed to me coming in from the outside. You have no experience. So that board member to CEO role for us has happened a whole bunch as well.
What are the biggest mistakes that those first-time CEOs face most commonly? What do they most come to you, the board, with and go, I'm struggling. What does that look like? I
think they try to do too much themselves. I think they think they have to be the CEO and they think they have to kind of do everything. I think they're hesitant to delegate too much. The best ones right away know my first job is to go hire the best star people around me. And they're very aware of their own strengths and their weaknesses. I usually ask their CEOs in an interview, one of my common interview questions is, you got to pick one. Are you a sales-focused CEO or an ops-focused CEO? Which one? It's like they say both, but I'm like, you got to pick one. The best CEOs, they can be either one, but they got to know which one they are. And they got to then say, I'm going to over-index resources on what I'm not. And so I think our best CEOs do that. And the ones that aren't as strong, they probably have lower self-awareness of they will surround people with their strengths. But our best CEOs are able to say, I'm one of those two, or I lean more this direction. And I have some of my network I used to work with, who I have high confidence in, who is the yin to my yang, and I'm going to go get her or him to join my team. And I think our best CEOs, they're consistently top-graded talent. I have a whole process around how we get better talent in the organization. And the best ones are always itching to top grade and add more to the team as we grow. We have a whole process with Shore Capital. We call it our 9-box analysis. Have you heard of a 9-box before or no?
No.
So we do this 9-box analysis. We do it twice a year. But the y-axis is we call potential, and the x-axis is performance. And it's low, medium, high, right? So the top right box, the 9th box in the upper right corner is high performance, high potential. We sit down with every CEO and we evaluate all of their reports. We call the CEO the letter N, like Nancy. N is your CEO. The board is N+1. The CEO's reports are the N-1. So like a CFO is a N-1. N-2 is a controller who's like reports to the CFO, reports to the CEO. And so we sit down and we map out the whole entire C-suite, the N and the N-1s with the CEO. Usually the partner at the firm will do it on his own, and then we share with the whole entire firm, and then the CEO will do it on his or her own. And they meet. And they say, okay, where's my marketing person? Where's my finance person? Where's my sales person? Where's my compliance person on this grid? And we look at where we are in our investment. If we're 100 million of revenue right now, and the goal is 300 million of revenue in 4 years, but my CFO is at his potential. He's performing high, but he's at his potential. We want to triple the size of the business. What should we do about it? Those are the questions I think that our best CEOs are asked to go, well, if he's at his potential or at her potential, I need to probably top grade here. And you have to always try to think about the kind of culture and the ecosystem, what you're doing with it. But I think my best CEOs are always trying to get value. And so I'm a big sports fan, and like in sports, quarterback is the most valuable position in football. The left tackle is probably the next most valuable position in football, American football, just to be clear. And the punter is probably less valuable. But my best CEOs are always kind of, gyrating to find the most valuable punter for the dollar. And they're always hustling to figure out how to top grade talent just a little bit everywhere and then in an appropriate way. And I think those who are able to get the most talent around them, and that 9-box gets to this most upper right portion, that's when we see things take off in our businesses.
Justin, are you a sales or are you an ops-focused CEO?
Sales. I like to be able to hopefully share what we're trying to do and get people to buy into it. I think my job is to sell the vision and sell the best people to come work with us. I have a COO at Shore Capital, who's a long time, one of my best friends, is a star, and he's amazing in ops. I think my job is to make sure we do all of it well. But if I have to pick, I'm sales. The ops part of it, you need both in the business to do well. You need to over-index on the part that you are not, I would say.
You said that one of the core roles of a CEO also is building the best team around you. I love something you said before, which is it takes a smart person 18 months to learn 90% of a field. It takes them a further 5 years to learn the final 10%. Why do some people not learn the 90% in the first 18 months?
So I think that's answer your question a couple of ways. First of all, we find the most important attribute is curiosity. People are just naturally curious. Harry, I'm guessing, from knowing you just a little bit, you read everything you can find. You listen to podcasts. You talk to somebody and they ask a question, you pull a string. You're just naturally curious. I find that to be a really important attribute. When I'm doing off-sheet references, curiosity meter is high on my list to figure that out. Those who are curious and have a certain level of firepower intellectually, they always get there. But people succeed in our organizations if three things are true. Number one, they have the mental firepower of the job. If they don't, shame on me for hiring you. Number two, they have the work ethic to the job. If they don't have the work ethic, shame on them for not having the hustle. And bucket three, we train them properly. If we don't train them properly, shame on me. But if you have mental firepower, you have the work ethic, and we train you properly, I am confident you will win in our system. And I personally believe that the best organizations create an amazing system. You can put a relatively average person into the system and have extraordinary results. An example I like to use is if you're an American football fan, the New England Patriots, over the last 20 years, probably one of the most successful football organizations. They had a system that was so successful that they would basically bring in relatively average players. They'd be outperformers in that industry and that team, and they'll leave and they go somewhere else, they'd underperform again. I think you create enterprise value. You create success by building that system where you can plug and play relatively average people into the system, and then you have a better outcomes. You also can plug in superstars like Randy Moss, for example, went into that system and even excelled even further. But then a lot of average running backs, for example, went into that system, performed there, and they got paid and they went somewhere else and they perform. And so I mean, my job at Shore Capital is building a system where we can bring in talented people. I want to get as best as I possibly can, but I want people to be able to do better here in the system than they can anywhere else. And then for our portfolio companies, at a board meeting yesterday, I was sharing with management teams, like, your job is not to go find 5 of you. I can't afford 5 of you founder or CEOs, because that old talent I can't find over and over again. I can find you to build something where you can bring in relatively competent, talented people that will thrive in your environment that you've created, and they will be more successful because of what you've created. And that, to me, is what a great business builds.
We're literally going up the arm here. You can see this turning into a sleeve. Smart work ethic training. Where have you most often dropped the ball?
I would say the work ethic. I've never interviewed somebody and they said, yeah, I don't work so hard. Like that is, it's hard to get a proxy for that. And unless you have an off-sheet reference for multiple people you know personally, it's really hard to get a read on that. Because, if someone calls you for an off-sheet reference, you don't know them at all, and you like the person, I think Harry's a good guy, and Harry's did pretty good. Let's say Harry's a B for me, a B or B plus player on my team, and you left the right way, and they call me 4 years later and say, tell me about Harry. I'm not going to say that Harry stinks. I think Harry's pretty good. He did a good job, and I think I like Harry. And how's his work ethic? Like, compared to what? Compared to who? And so it's really hard to get that. And you only know, I think, once a part of your team for a period of time, or if someone on your team has worked with that person directly for at least 3 or 4 years. So that's a harder one to get. I try my best to get to it, but I think if you ask where I err the most, that's probably where I err the most, that no one thinks they don't work hard. That's just the reality of it. And so you have to be able to, I would say, know that bias and try and figure out different mechanisms to get to underlying truths.
This is going to be a little bit divisive. I don't think young people want to work that hard anymore. I think they want to optimize for, and sorry, maybe we're going to disagree here. I think they want to optimize for balance. I agree with what you said earlier, which is there's a time for balance. But dude, I work 18 hours a day. I kill myself to succeed. And that's why I've been successful, not because of smarts. But I don't find many want to go that 10% further. Do you agree? And do you worry about
that? I think it's hard to generalize, but I would say that the people who work hardest don't talk about it. And you don't see it for 10 years. Like, it's like almost like a butterfly. That caterpillar goes in that coop or whatever it is, and you can't see what they're doing for a long, long time. Their head is down. They're hustling. They're doing what they do. And you know what? Eventually that beautiful butterfly comes out and people can see it. And I think it's really hard to judge. I always tell people, in your 20s, you're an apprentice. go work for somebody who is a star and you basically a sponge and learn as much as you can. It's really hard to compare who works hard because, I would say maybe young people today, I think there's an argument they may work less, want more work-life balance, but they're oftentimes a lot more efficient and better technology tools than somebody who's in their last third of their career. So somebody who's really talented works his tail off as a salesperson with great relationships, but struggles to operate in a CRM and document what they do. I don't know who's working harder, who's working smarter. There's a balance of those things. Like obviously, you want someone to work harder and smarter. And I don't want someone to burn out. To me, it's about it comes from within, the drive of within. And I think a lot of times people have a chip on their shoulder that has something they want to prove, or just be competitive with something. My brother and I are best friends. I want to beat his butt always. I want to be better than him in everything I possibly do. And I think he does the same thing. And having somebody, I really believe that the best and most talented organizations and people have a rival they really respect. I think the Red Sox are better because they hate the Yankees. I think Duke hates basketball against North Carolina. I think Coke hates Pepsi. And they are better because the other one exists. And so as far as hard work, I think, I try to create environments in my organization where people have a peer that they can bring themselves with. I think those people who are best are going to fight it out. And I want category killers. I want someone who is so much better than everybody else. That's abundantly obvious. And those do exist. Get those. You promote them early. You reward them. You shower them with praise. Give them what they want. And it's not fair to everybody else. I'm a firm believer that the top 0.1% are worth much more than the next 10%. Give me 1.001% individual over 10 people in the top 10%. And finding that one leader, mover, shaker, it dwarfs it. I always want as much as I can, but I think also using sports as an analogy, there's just some players who are just so much better than everybody else. It doesn't matter. You need the next 4 best players on the field. That one will lift up the rest if they have average or reasonable people around them as well. So I'm a big believer of finding the guy or the gal that is a needle mover and make sure you give them what they want and give them the upside.
And when you find them, the most important thing is that you retain them. And from my stalking, you said before about your father's 2 lessons on retention. And one of them is people don't leave their friends and pay market comp. I just want to break those down. When you think about paying market comp, ensuring they see upside, incentivizing them the right way, what are your biggest lessons on, bluntly, financial incentivization that aligns with their career trajectory and keeping the best talent?
So I love giving more upside for performance, but also my dad taught me this, and I do this all the time. I think it's important to have surprises to the positive consistently. I'll give you an example. So at Shore Capital, whenever we exit a business that has a return that's been greater than 3 times your money, the show forth in all of them, but we call it a Shore win. Like Shore is one, a Shore win. And I'm a believer that when we win, the whole firm wins. And so from the most junior person in the organization to the most senior person, everyone gets paid a bonus outside of their current compensation package. So let's say we sell a business tomorrow for like 5 times our money. The front desk person gets a bonus of X dollars. The analyst, Y. All the way up the chain. Everyone wins as a firm. And I think that creates camaraderie and culture because everyone's pulling for each other to win. And you celebrate those wins. Whenever we have an exit, all we don't have money, we have a miniature Stanley Cup. We take out in the town. We celebrate. We have a horn that goes off that celebrates the win. Celebrates the wins. You catch people doing things right, reward them in the moment. I think that creates a culture people want to excel. We have a thing every Monday morning. We have our meeting. We have a Hall of Fame. And so if someone in the organization sees someone else who's that's really awesome, a process, a report, a judgment call that was awesome, they get nominated for the Hall of Fame. We publicly recognize them. I think it's no one factor, Harry. It's a system and it's many. They all pile up. They're all pennies. They all add up. You can't just say do one. It's a culture of success and rewarding success financially. I think people like rewarded public sort of praise. People want to feel good around the people they care about. I think all those things together, plus market comp, plus friends, but it's a system, I believe, that matters.
Listen, you've been managing firms for much longer than me. I think little and often is my biggest lesson. And what do I mean by that? It's like break apart like title and then salary or finances, and then increase one of them little and often. So they continuously have hits. And this is like once every 6 months, continuously have hits of progression, financial or career. And it retains them and makes them feel worthy in a way that I find difficult to do otherwise.
The best people want recognition, whether that is compensation, title, or something. There's lots of ways to do it. I think people also want responsibility. And I think that's an important part of it. I think the best people want the ball early. And I think whether it's compensation, I bet you there are a lot of really talented people out there that would trade off, $20,000 increase in compensation, the right to be the lead on the deal and be the ultimate decision maker on certain parts of the transaction, because they would feel that experience is incredibly valuable. And by the way, I want that. I want the guys and gals early in their career to have that ball. That's why I started Shore Capital. I was 31. I craved the ball in my hands, make the judgment calls, and I think the best want that. Now, that's why I have a bunch of systems and processes in place to hopefully have guardrails to allow them to make the judgment calls. It's their judgment call on negotiating certain parts of the transaction within a framework. And I think that is really rewarding on top of compensation, on top of other things, and professional upside. They feel like they have a chance to be a leader and a chance to make ultimate decision making.
Justin, the best often do have egos. How do you think about willingness to accept them, and if so, ego management in teams?
Yeah, so I read a book about Phil Jackson, and he wrote, and part of it, something to the following effect. Phil Jackson was a famous basketball coach for the Bulls and for the Lakers. This is when he was managing the Lakers. He had Shaquille O'Neal on his team and Kobe Bryant on his team. We were probably two of the top 10 players of all time, roughly, maybe top 20 players, whoever they were. They're two great players. And he said there's a point in the game where both of them said, he's like, they both wanted the ball. They both wanted the ego stroke. They both wanted to be told they were the best. And he said he would, after a timeout, basically step away from timeout, grab Kobe by his jersey. Kobe, get over here. You're the best goddamn player on this planet. Go out there and you make sure you get this bucket next. Literally a second later, turn around to Shaquille O'Neal, grab him by his jersey and say, Shaquille, get over here real quick. You're the best goddamn big man I've ever seen in my life. Go basically get the ball and score. I mean, they're both accurate and true, but he had a little bit of nuance, and both needed that. You have to understand what that person needs and what motivates them. Some people get motivated by silent pressure. Simple things like just take an article and post it in their office that says, no, the best deal done last year in your industry was done by another firm. Just stick it on the wall, put a little pin in it, or tape on someone's computer. They walk in, they're like, that's bullshit. My deal is better than that. And they know by that. Other people need to be consistently talked to and praised. Other people, I think a manager's job is to meet the great executives where they are and where they want to be met and give them what they need to motivate them. And you always have to be honest, be truthful. But I think there's ways to manage to be able to say similar things to the best people. And my job is to get the best out of each of them. That's by creating a system, giving them resources, but also giving them the confidence that you're really good at what you do. Go get it done and prove that you should have more responsibility and more upside. And I think those who do that in my organizations get promoted quicker and you have the opportunity to have more trust earlier in their career.
It's very funny. There's a football manager in the UK called Arsene Wenger, who was the manager of Arsenal for many years. And before every game, he would go up to 4 or 5 people and say, just alone, Justin, you're my best player. This is your game to win. 2 minutes later, Peter, this is your game to win. You're my best player. And only 10 years later did they realize that he said it to 5 of them.
Yeah, I mean, I will make sure I'm always honest, so I can say you're the best right wing, or you're the best defender, or you're the best player I've seen play in the last 4 years. But yes, I think a manager's job is to get the best out of his people, right? And there's lots of ways by also being truthful. You get the best out of his people. You have to know what drives them and what incentivizes them.
Justin, have you ever felt like you failed as a manager? I'm young and I make mistakes. I often feel like
I failed a bunch of times. One that sticks out the most to me is when we raised our first fund. It was a small fund, $100 million fund. I was so excited. We had my view is some name brand LPs that I was really excited about. And the very last week, they left me at the altar. We were still a month to close the fund, but I was frustrated that the people I thought were coming in didn't come in. So, okay, close that chapter. That was the framework for it. Our next fund, we raised, $250 million, whatever it was. And I told myself, I'm not going to be in that situation again where someone I wanted involved would leave me at the altar and we could be short what we needed. So I went out and I made sure that we had a bunch of interest, and I had, again, way more than we needed. And I think the mistake was I didn't communicate well to those LPs, and all of them went and did their work, and all of them came in. I didn't have room for all of them. And the outcome was some frustrated LPs who had minimums they had to invest. I could do it to all of them. It's a really big learning lesson for me on expectation setting. And I think I failed some of those LPs, this is now like 10 years ago now, by letting them go do their work, write their investment committee memo, go do their thing, and then not have them come into the fund at the size they wanted. I think that's about expectation setting. And since then, of course, I've changed my approach and I'll be very clear on the front end. If you go do this work, you will have this opportunity. If you get there, if you don't, you won't. And I won't double that up. I'll let people know exactly where they're going to be and why. And so there's a big learning lesson for me on expectation setting that applies across the whole entire organization.
There's an alternative perspective, which is the people who move fastest and have most conviction probably did get the allocations, and those that didn't probably didn't. But you have a more humble approach maybe than I do to that.
Well, it's also important to me to have the right partners. It's just because someone moves fast, has conviction, I want to make sure that they see the world the same way as we do. We're very much focused on highest return on invested capital. So we're very much focused on partners who have more of a patient approach and collaborative approach. So there are other LPs with different focuses, maybe IR focused or more MOIC focused. That's just really how we think about it. And so I think it's alignment. And also I want LPs who I would say have a cause we believe in also. All things equal, I want someone that we can hopefully support something that can do a lot of good. We will a lion's share of our investors are endowments, and it feels really good knowing that if we do our job well, that there's a person who's going to get a scholarship to university or a building that's going to be built to hopefully make the world a better place if we do things right. Or there's non-for-profits that are going to be, be able to do things they would do otherwise. So I think it's multifactorial analysis. We do those sort of things.
Final one on the people, and I just want to move to family quickly, which is, you said people don't leave their friends. In venture, we have, Doug Leone at Sequoia, who famously says Sequoia is a team, it is not a family. Really imbuing that performance above everything else. It kind of flew in the face of that when I heard that people don't leave their friends. How do you think about people don't leave their friends?
I mean, I want to create an environment where people want to be around each other. I think, we're all fortunate enough in our life right now to pick where we work and have choices, and the best people have those options. And so I believe by working in an environment where you have deep relationships and friendships with people, I think it creates a better long-term success strategy. By the way, I'm not trading off one penny on, or 1 inch on quality or execution. So if they don't perform, then they don't have the opportunity. I have a really, really high bar who gets to a certain level of the organizations, vice presidents and principals and partners. If you're there, I think about it this way. If I'm giving you a role as a vice president, I'm giving you a role for your career unless you mess something up. That's how I really think about it. And I think, absent bad behavior, which is a whole different conversation, the creating an environment for friends and a place where behind each other, that's really, I think, an emphasis on I would say, the younger half of our organization, where I think I want to create the option where they want to be around each other. They work in the bullpen late at night. They become friends with each other. And then when they go off on their own to go to business school or they go to work in a company, they have contacts and relationships. I think there's a more enjoyable workforce, and I think it creates more stickiness to those we want to be here. I think I love it when our guys gets married and there's like 17 people from Shore Capital at the wedding. I take a lot of pride in that. When I got married, I invited every person Shore Capital. So now 10 years, 8 years ago, I guess now, 7 years ago, I guess. I prefer that environment. And by the way, I know Doug really well, and Doug is not the best investor I've ever met, in the top handful for sure. And I think that his approach is very spot on. You have to keep your standards. I don't trade off standards at all for friends, but creating an environment for the organization where people are friends with each other. The little things that matter. An example, I stole this from somebody else, and I'll share it here. And I hope others steal it. One thing we do at Shore Capital, I think, is really impactful, that I think creates friendships and creates a lot of loyalty to the organization. It's super simple, but I think super valuable. We have a database that shows every employee at Shore Capital, their spouse's birthday and their children's birthdays. On every spouse's birthday, there's flowers that come from Shore Capital to the spouse. For every child's birthday, there's a little cookie bouquet that goes to that child's for the birthday. Makes me nothing more happy to get a random text on a Tuesday morning when it's the child of my partner saying, "Thanks for the cookies yesterday. It was a great birthday." Like, those are the little things I think that add up over time. And it's hard to implement that. That is a relatively easy thing to implement, but it has, I think, an outsized impact and creates bonds across the organization. I think that's one of the things I really focus on.
God, you're good. I thought I was good at the little things.
I copied that from a friend of mine named Doug. He gave me that like 7 years ago. I just copied it.
Do you know what I do, which is the most impactful also? It's like when someone has a child, it is one of the most impactful moments in their life and so special. I will send a little baby grow with 20 VC logo, a Shore Capital logo, and I'll say, my daddy does PE, and then I'll put on the back, but my mummy's the boss. Honestly, you will have the love of that person and family for 5 years, 10 years. They
100%.
never forget that little thing. It cost me $22 per one.
And it's the thought, because there's effort. You think about it, people care about those things as opposed to a random blanket you buy off of X.com or whatever it's going to be. Like, those things matter. And also, a really important part of our culture is also, I think, people know people don't care how much you know until much you care. And for me, I care about my leaders' spouses a whole bunch. We invest a lot of effort into making sure they feel part of the family, they're involved. Because look, everyone has a bad day. No matter who you are, what you do, you have a bad day and you come home from work, he or she comes home and they're frustrated and they complain to their spouse. That just happens everywhere. One of my goals of relationship building over a long time is for that spouse to say to the person that works at Shore Capital, yeah, but they're really good guys. Like that right there diffuses many things that people's mind may go down a rabbit hole. We just wanted to go there. And so if they believe we're really good people and they believe in you right by the organization, right by the person, it's always my mindset, make it right. We had a mistake last year on benefits or something and someone had a problem. My answer to our team was, make it right. I don't care what it costs. Make it right. And if you do that over and over again, it adds up and it matters.
You know what's funny also? There's nothing more powerful than pillow talk. When you get into bed with your partner and you go, I'm fed up of Shore, whatever it is. And they go, oh, but remember, they did send X those cookies and they really do care about us. And they've been great. The power of pillow talk can never be underestimated.
100%. And by the way, it doesn't mean that someone gets off easy or they don't fall. Like, I'm tough. We have goals that we agree upon. And if you don't hit your goals, like, I'm relatively unforgiving. Like, there's like process around that sort of stuff. But the human side is always there. It's not one thing. It's like we have days of service. We have the families and the kids, and we give back to the community. We have hopefully fun of events for like parties, these cup parties. It can't be one thing. To me, it's a culture and an ecosystem of many, many things together that add up to a place where would I want to work? Where would I want to spend we spend more of our waking time at work than anywhere else. And so how do I create a place where people are like, okay, I have professional opportunity. I like the people I work with. I get paid fairly for this. And I think I have future upside and I have intellectual stimulation. Give me all those things, and I think you have high retention.
I want to discuss two more things, and then we'll do a quick fire. But the first is fatherhood, which we've touched on, but the second is money. First being fatherhood. What does being a great father mean to you, and how has your style of parenting changed over the years?
Great father's my dad. So like I got super lucky having one of the best fathers. He was my best friend, mentor. I quote him all the time. I've learned more from him than anyone in the world. So he always had time and balance for me. And so like I'm early in fatherhood. My oldest is turning 5 in 2 weeks. My middle is turning 3 next week. And then I have a 1.5-year-old. So like I have a hard judgment to be able to say what it's like when someone's 14 or 18. I'm not there. But my view is I have to be there for them. And it's my most important job. Sometimes people say that, like, Justin, you've been financially successful. Why do you work? And my answer is, my kids have to see me grind. They got to see dad get up every day and put on a jacket and hustle. I think being part of the dad is showing them if you love what you do, it's not work. And I want them to find something they have passion about. And so as a dad, I think that's super important. I want to be there. I want to coach their games. I'll be involved with their life. I want to know their friends. I want to do all the things that a dad should do. But on the more specific tactical things, again, I'm a goal person. So goals at the age my kids are, I put them down a lot. And so I have a goal for my 2 oldest boys to literally be the one who puts them in bed 180 nights per year. So literally I have a tracker that is, it comes down to be, X amounts per month, about 15 nights a month or so. And I'm trying to be the person who is the personality puts them in bed, roughly 180 nights a year. I track it by month. I have a tracker that does that, and so to me, it's like those type of things. I have goals of, one-on-one time with them for a special getaway. And I think writing those things down and measuring myself. Do I always accomplish those goals? No, and then I have another goal, really important thing. Someone told me years ago, and I try to do it with my family. I never walk in my house after work on the phone. When I walk in the door, I'm present. I may sit in the garage for 10 minutes finishing a phone call, but I won't walk in the door with the phone on my head. And so I walk in, hey guys, and my favorite part of my day, I walk in, my kids are still young enough, they're like, Dad's home, and then runs to the door. That's like my number one thing. My dad, told me as I got older, said that was the favorite part when we were kids. And he also told me something. He's like, Justin, your kids are never going to say, hey, Dad, this is the last day I'm going to run the door. And he goes, enjoy it while you will, because they're going to one day stop running the door. So enjoy it while you got it.
Yeah. I remember I used to sit at the end of the street and wait for my father to come home because he'd get like off the bus and you'd see him. And I think that's a pretty special moment. You also have a challenge, Justin, if we're honest. I've spent a lot of time talking to your Doug Leonis, talking to your David Velez's at Nubank about bringing children up in very affluent families, which brings challenges. How do you ensure that they are humble and hardworking despite a lot of financial fortune?
Yeah, no, I'm early on in my journey here, so I wish I had an answer to that. I mean, I think it's a super high priority to think through those challenges and create, again, on being a system person. How do I create an environment where they know they have to work for what they get? They have to, my biggest thing is I want them to be passionate about something. I don't care what they love to do, but I think if a child or a person loves something, they'll be relatively successful at it. They put their heart behind it. And so my children will probably have more financial means than most. But I've already told them, like, it isn't your money. It's your mom and I's money, and a lot will be given away. I will make sure you never go hungry, and I'll make sure you have education. But you have to earn your own place. And I think people, I'm still early on this journey. I've talked to a lot of friends. I ask this question all the time, and what I've heard a lot back from friends is not allowing them to work for you early on. They must go get a real job somewhere else, have a promotion somewhere else before they come back to the family business. My business probably does not make sense. My business is a little bit different, but I wish I had a better answer. And if there's listeners out there who have good techniques, I'm all ears, because I'm 5'3" and 1. I have not faced the material challenges yet. They don't fully appreciate and understand at this age. They know we have a house, so we have a car, but we also pretty humble. I still drive a 2012 Range Rover. My parents, still live in the house they bought in 1980 and still the same. My bedroom from there is still exactly the same. So I think it's how you raise them. And also I read an article probably 20 years ago that said the highest indicator of SAT success for a child was number of meals, dinners per week where both mother and father at the table. That stuck with me. And so, how do you raise them? It tells me I have to be at the dinner table 4 or 5 nights a week with my kids. And we ask the question every night, even age 5 and 3 and 1, what was the best part of your day? And have them talk. And so I'm sure as we get a little older, the change will come. But I'd be lying to you if I said I had the answers here. There's no silver bullets. I read about this sort of stuff, but it's a high priority for me to make sure you get this right, because I will not raise kids for little brats. That's something high on my list. They need to know they have to work for what they get. I want them to have a rewarding opportunity ahead of them.
I interviewed one of the most successful financiers of the last 50 years the other day. And aside, he said, the most important thing that you can do, Harry, is watch the National Geographic channel and that'll teach you all you need to know about parenting. I said, what? And they said, look at the elephants. They lead the way. The young ones learn through watching the others do. And very much to your point earlier of I grind and I hustle because it gives them an example to follow. That was their biggest lesson to me. And I thought it was interesting and nice.
That's I like that. I may steal that. My dad used to tell me, kids do as you do, not as you say. And so I think it's a very similar mentality. And so, but the elephant one makes a lot of sense to me also. I think that's right.
Justin, final one. I didn't grow up with money, and I still struggle with actually a relationship to money. I always tell myself, probably shouldn't be this open, but fuck it. I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I get X amount of money. And it's a very hard thing. And I would say I'm actually struggling with happiness now, because you realize when you get somewhere that you're still not happy. Can you just help me understand? Can you just advise me actually as a friend? How should I be thinking about this? What have your lessons been on money?
So I think the way I think about it is money follows success. And so I guess my mindset is focus on success and the money part will follow. My partner, Brad Moore, my partners at Shore Capital. Him and I bonded. We met through YPO. We bonded. And we were at an event together where people go around the room and say the word that most, one word to describe your ethos. And he went first and I went second. Both had the same word. And the word was win. And I think about money, it's more about how do I win at everything I do at life? How do I have success first and money follows? And I think there's different parts of a money journey. There's like, when I sold our first company, X dollars in my account, I was literally looked at the account and said, wow, I never thought I had that much in account, that moment in time. And then it goes on. But my personal view is that all the studies say money helps enable up to a certain point. But another friend of mine said, money is an amplifier. If you're a jerk and you have money, you become more of a jerk. If you're a good person and you have money, you become more of a good person. And so I try to think of it that way, that I've had a little bit of a success, and how do I do more good with the money out that we've been able to earn. And so I view money as an enabler and an opportunity to do more good and more opportunities. But if I focus on the success part, I know what will happen next. And so that to me is the focus of my energy and time.
If you had even more money, which is hard, is there anything you'd do differently? Someone asked me this the other day, and I was like, buy more trainers. Like, I don't like traveling. I don't. And then my mentor was like, Harry, this is my point. Money is not your issue. You have other issues.
Yeah, I don't think I would do much differently. And then, by the way, if you saw where I lived 5 years ago, like, it doesn't, to me, it is, I would invest more. That's what I would do. I would invest more in my own deals. That's what I would honestly do. And then the thing I struggle with on money part is like, when do you give it away? Right. And like, there's trade-off those things of like, if I have $100 right now, but I'm confident I can turn $100 into $500 in 5 years, is it better to give $500 away in 5 years? Or is it better to give $100 away right now? There's no answer to that question, right? Because give $100 today to a good cause and you end up supporting a child that does well and he's able to have some downstream effects. Is that better? Or is it better to keep it for 5 years, don't help that child, and give $500 away in 5 years? That's a struggle I personally. The answer is both, I think, but there's really no answer. That's something I struggle with.
One of my closest mentors and biggest investors in my funds said to me the other day, it's far harder to give money away efficiently than it is to make it. Like, I am still struggling on giving it away efficiently. I think that's the question there. Yeah,
there's no, so I'll tell you, so again, my dad is, I love him. He did this, and now I do it also. And I think this is so when I was like in high school, I asked my dad at some point, Dad, I know you do okay financially. How come we don't go to like galas or like charitable events in town and like, you're a sponsor for something? And he said, look, I think he looks at like the ratio of what the administrative costs are and stuff. He said, I don't see the impact by giving, $5,000 to XY Foundation. He said to me, stood out my mind, and now we do it here at Shore Capital. He said, the building he works in, he didn't own it. The building he works in, so there's janitors here, there's parking garage people, there's maintenance people here. He said, what I do is every person that works here in the building that I see and touch every single day, I pay for their children's or grandchildren's summer camps. And he goes, it's had a huge impact. And he goes, I see it because that janitor who may not be able to have their child or grandchild go to summer camp, now they're going to do something that they never were doing before, to be able to have an impact. And I get to hear back from my grandfather that my grandson was able to mingle with certain kids that had opportunity to learn this, made a friend over here, and now he's going to come back to that guy's house. He's learned it. Like, I was like, wow. And so we do that here also. Like, you pay for those type of things, and the impact, you got to start with your corner of the world. And I think, the corner of our world I have most contact with is people in my office, and be able to hopefully help those janitors' kids or grandkids go to camp they never would have gone to before. That's rewarding.
Gosh, you're good for these little tidbits. I feel like you could write a book on these like lessons and like, no, you know why? Because so many people are like, oh, it's about great culture. And then you unpack and it's like, what have you got for me that you can actually instill today? And you actually have that. Like, I love this. Listen, I'm conscious of time, but I could talk to you all day. Can I do a quick fire with you?
Let's go.
Okay. What have you changed your mind on in the last 12 months most?
I think the biggest thing is how to communicate with our portfolio managers. So I've always believed my roles is one of the leaders of Shore Capital is I communicate to my partners and they communicate to the portfolio company CEOs and they communicate to technology has changed that. We use a simple app, BombBomb. I will now routinely record a 4-minute video on something, and I want the answer is both. Technology is able to, I'm going to communicate to my team, hey, go tell them that we're going to focus on audits this year. And here's a way we're auditing whatever it may be. And I'm going to record a 4-minute video. I want the message to come directly from me because the telephone game gets in the way. So I can record the message relatively efficiently and get to where it's got to go. My partners and our colleagues can also disseminate it both ways. So what's changed the most is I'm doing a lot more direct communication at scale through videos because I think people want to see the face and hear the story. I want my message and my words to get across exactly. and my partners deliver it their way also. So I think that's changed a lot for us over the last year.
I like that a lot, and I agree with you on the importance. I think it's so personal. Tell me, what's the biggest surprise of owning a sports team?
The collaboration and the friendliness of the people, of their owners. On the court, it's fierce competition, but at the end of the day, like in the NBA, we're all a business partnership. And guess who we're competing against? Other forms of entertainment. In reality, Harry has $100 to spend. He can go to the movie theater, he can go golfing, he can go race car driving, or he can spend it on basketball. We as a group are collectively trying to get Harry's $100 of entertainment to come to this group, and we are trying to do that together. Now drafting a player or trading, like I want that guy to do the worst and me to do the best. But as far as the collaboration and friendliness to help the business side and compete against other entertainment options surprised me in that concept, and it's been, I think, really positive, I would say.
What's the single hardest thing about owning a team?
Well, so far, we're only a year into it. It's really hard. Injuries. Like in my day job, if I hire Harry to be my CEO, like absent a major life instance, you come to work, and playing on the field almost every day. If there's 20 business days a month, Harry's playing 19 of those 20, consistently, put it that way. In pro sports, rightfully, people get hurt. And you can do everything right. And then someone's ankle gets with the injuries as contact and non-contact injuries. I can't plan for the contact injury, a knee bumping a knee. And that's really hard when you do the things right. You're in a really good position and someone has a knee injury and all of a sudden, like the competition in sports is so tight and so close. An injury to one player changes the dynamic of a team materially. And so that's hard as a business person to I'm learning how to handle that. I don't know how to answer that at this point in time, but that's been a surprise at how impactful it can be.
No, I do, which is like we invest in solutions that solve problems. And I think this is one of the biggest problems. I interview a lot of sports owners, and they all say this. And so I invest in a company called Oreco, which uses data very intelligently and blood markers to identify injuries ahead of time so you can never actually get injured properly. It's pretty cool. I'll send it to you afterwards. What's the best investment advice you've received?
Never do a deal alone. I think it's really important to listen to your peers, have colleagues around you. Never do a deal alone because you're not the smartest person in the room. Having people to question you and judge you and professionally criticize the opportunity, I think that's really important. Never do a deal alone.
How do you avoid groupthink? Because that's a challenge when you then introduce everyone else.
So again, I'm a process person. And so whatever our investment committees, if you were in the meeting, there's a team we call the Devil's Advocate team. We assign up to 5 people to be internally critical and kind of the jerk who is opposing the deal. Even if Harry loves the deal that's in front of us, my job is Shore Capital. I assign the Devil's Advocate team. I know Harry's really smart on this topic. I'll make sure Harry's on the Devil's Advocate team. And your best friend will leave the deal. You may think this is a home run deal, but for the investment fee meeting for the hour and a half or 2 hours, your job is to be the Devil's Advocate and point out all the things that could go wrong. I think that is a structural thing that goes into effect that I think has really positive impacts. And then the guy who's doing the deal isn't pissed at you that you're saying his deal stinks because he knows your job is to be critical. Even though you may love the deal, after you can vote in favor of it. But while we're discussing it, your job is pointing all the holes in it.
What's the most common piece of investment advice you hear that you think's BS?
I'm not sure it's investment advice, but it's fund advice. I can't tell you how often I hear someone who's like 34 years old at a really large fund that says, I'm just going to spin out and raise a $200 million fund and start from there. Like, I don't think people understand how hard it is to raise a $200 million fund. Unless people have things I never have seen, it is really, really hard to do a first-time fund, especially in this environment. And I think
it's so different as well, being a fund manager versus being an investor. Like I view us as founders and CEOs very different to working in a big firm and being an investor.
We're very different. It's just a whole, I'm CEO of Shore Capital. That's my job. I also happen to invest. I love investing. I'm involved with that. But my job is to put the whole organization in its position to succeed on investing. And to do it from a fund perspective and have to do it at scale, institutional quality, you have to do both. And so I think someone to say, I'm going to spin out and do $200 million. I think people work at large funds that raise $12 billion and they have one friend at the endowment that they talk to and say, oh yeah, we'd back you guys. You know what? There's someone else that has, unless you have a personal relationship with a individual family, my view is a whole institutional process. I've never seen large institutions invest 8 figures without a material process and track record they can point to.
I agree totally, by the way. Tell me, does Trump win, and what's the impact?
Oof. I don't know who's going to win. I wish I knew who would win. That'd be great to know. I'll say this. So, what I think people sometimes forget is, at least in my view, the United States is the best country in the world, and we're living the best time it's ever had. I think people are literally dying to move into this country. There's 360 of us, 300 million, 350, 360 million of us. We're so fortunate to live here, have the opportunity to live and work. We're the most commercial market in the world, the most structured rules. It's the best place to build a business in the whole entire world. And people literally want to come here from everywhere. And so I don't know who's going to win the election, but I think sometimes we forget as Americans how lucky we are. There's 8 billion people on earth. Less than 5% were born here and live here. I think we forget that no matter who the president is, once that person is voted in, I view my job as support them, even though I may not like the president, whatever it may be. Once they're president, they're our president, not that party's president. And so I don't know who's going to win this election, but I think we should be grateful for where we live and the opportunities and freedoms that we have and the rule of law that we know exists. Americans, my belief, is the most innovative country in the world. And over time, we prevail. And I would say this, it's a little bit of Warren Buffett quoting, never bet against American ingenuity. And I very much believe in that. So I don't really care who the president is. I do care, but I don't know who the president is going to be. But I believe in the American system. I think that we will win for a long term.
Are you worried about China? When you look at consumer app stores now, you have Shine, you have Temu, you have TikTok. The penetration they have into US consumers is more real now than ever.
Yes, I am worried about technology is changing the ability for foreign nationals with dubious behavior or desires to potentially do things that they could never do before. 30 years ago, there was no way for international leadership, international countries, other sovereign nations to have a true direct dialogue with our youth. And today they can. And they can control different things. And so I'm worried about it. I also believe that, again, in American ingenuity, and I think we'll put things in place that will structure it. I think there'll be blips and there'll be times we have to go through rough patches. But I do believe there'll be processes and regulations and things put in place to minimize. That would be perfect. There's always, I think that the young talent will always be ahead of the curve from where the government will be. So as a parent and as a leader, I think we have to be mindful of that. But I do believe that we have to be mindful and aware of the bad actors out there.
Respectfully, I heard you there and you said about the optimism. We've got the geopolitical situation, you have China, you have climate change, you have massive kind of civic societal challenges and divisions. Why am I wrong to be negative? Why are you optimistic and me not when I see all of these problems?
I think people naturally point to all of things that are going wrong. And I point to, I'm aware of those things. I think I have to do those things to mitigate it. But just from the American perspective, okay, if you could pick where in the world to live at natural boundaries, it's like 2 oceans on either side of you and friendly neighbors to north and south. As far as economies, I think we're the 3rd largest economy in the world, like India or China, however you think about it. I think that those are the options for choosing to come here. I think you see what's happening all across the world. Those come here to learn and train, and they want to build businesses here. And so I think there's a lot of headwinds and challenges, but I don't think the challenges we're facing today are materially different than the challenges my father faced or my grandfather or great-grandfather. I think it was a lot harder for my grandfather to come from Turkey to the U.S. and know nobody with no $100 in his pocket than it is for people today and my kids to grow up in American society, have education and tools at their fingertips.
I totally agree. Final one. Where do you want to be in 10? I know this is a kind of classic interview question, which is hilarious, but Shore Capital in 2034 and you, where is that then? Paint that picture for me.
I'm right here running Shore Capital. I love what I do. I'm in the 2nd inning of Shore Capital. This is just the beginning of what we're trying to build. I love what I do. It's not work. And so I'm fortunate to have amazing people, great team members. We're all relatively young. And so we're really we got fortunate that we started at a relatively early age. We're built a team and an ecosystem I think is built to last. And so I'm leading Shore Capital. My dad's 76, he still works every day, puts a tie on every day. I will work till I die. I love what I do. And to me, it's about, the thing I'm excited about is I love seeing the success of my younger guys that took a bet on me 15 years ago, their success. I love seeing that. So hopefully I'm sitting here in 10 years and people who joined us last year are having the success that guys joined us 10 years ago today.
Justin, I've loved doing this. Peter told me it would be one of our best. I think he was right. Thank you so much for doing this.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. You have an amazing show, an amazing following. I'm looking forward to staying in touch. And if I can ever be helpful to you or your team ever, please let us know. And thank you for the opportunity to share the Shore Capital story.